The old gods become one. New whispers are crazy. The War Within beta. Now, we've dissected the War Within and the whispers of the old gods before. The old ones from N'Zoth and everything else. We've talked about those many, many times. But there are new old god whispers. I'm interested to hear what they might be. Let's see what Doran has to say.
So we just got brand new old god whispers directly from the War Within beta. There is a fish that generally symbolizes old gods that transforms into an octopus and swims away with a leviathan while at the same time implanting void whispers into our mind. It talks about how the old god blood that is in Xal'atath is alive even though the old gods are seemingly gone, and the blood remains and remembers. It remembers the wars of the past and the wars that are to come. Further hints and a mural tie this very closely to the mysterious fifth old god that we will encounter soon. Is the Titan facility Ulda's under Xal'atath, and will we discover a new old god prison? Could the old gods have been pooling their blood here, and the mural represents the ultimate creation that is supposed to awaken Azerite, which is why the mural looks like N'Zoth and Y'Shaarj combined. Let's take a look.
It does look like N'Zoth and Y'Shaarj combined, and we do know that the blood of the old gods is basically what's being mined right now by the Nerubians. That's what Xal'atath is up to. She's mining this old god blood. Now, whether or not she plans on combining these different parts of the old gods into one massive one, you know, like a Megazord kind of thing, I have no idea. But there's certainly something to the old god blood. When's the last time we talked about old god blood? Probably Icecrown Citadel. I mean, we know that that's made of old god blood as well. So there's certainly power in it, right? There's something that it could be used for, but we haven't figured out exactly what yet Xal'atath's going to use it for.
And Y'Shaarj combined. Let's take a look at this new quest and all the new information because it's super interesting. Actually playing WoW on your phone is now possible with Awesome, this video sponsor. It allows you to control your desktop from your phone completely free, which is perfect for checking in on your WoW characters when you're away from the key.
Use Awesome.
It's super easy to use. Just click my link in the description, download the PC and the phone app, and just connect them. The free version is great as you can control your desktop, but the real deal is the game version with custom keyboards for various games such as WoW with great FPS and sound as well. Make sure to use my code Doran to get 7 days completely free, only for the first 200 people. They also got a smart plug to turn off your PC at any time, as well as hot sales with up to 40% off on Pro and Game versions. Check out Awesome.
Nice. Do it. Use the man's code.
So by this point, you've definitely seen the mural from Azerite, the lowest, most layer of the new zone Xal'atath, and it is really one of the most interesting new lore we had gotten from the World Soul Saga so far. It is a very detailed picture that you can discuss really for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, this thing, literally, you could break it down 100 different ways, but one crazy thing about it is a lot of people are speculating that this is the crystal in Hallowfall, but obviously it's become fully voided out, right? It's not transitioning anymore. So what this thing is supposed to be used for, maybe the heralding of this mega combination old god, who knows? And it also looks like at the bottom, by the way, that the Nerubians or somebody is being funneled into the old god's mouth, like being sacrificed to it, which is a crazy thing as well. We'll have to see what this ends up being, but it's certainly something.
Want to get into
this is not just an art piece.
Details that you can find here, but by all accounts, it is a completely new figure that we had never seen in the past. Some people say this is N'Zoth, some people say this is Y'Shaarj.
Yeah, I don't think it is.
The artwork of both of them in the past from multiple angles and the descriptions, we know everything about them, and none of them really match this figure. I mean, certainly they share some of the characteristics, but it's definitely not them. Furthermore, people have been saying that this figure is Xal'atath, and this is outright not the case because we got dialogue from Illyria in the beta that literally confirmed that Xal'atath is not an old god, like straight out said it. Yeah. You could say that
I've never really thought Xal'atath was an old god. That whole theory seemed off to me to begin with. Now, I understand there's always been the theory about the extra old god or the 7th old god, or I should say, what would it be, the 5th or the 5th old god? But odds are that she's not. It doesn't make any sense. Plus, she's called herself the Harbinger. Right? What is a harbinger? If she's bringing about herself, it's a bringer of things to come. That's what you look up the definition of a harbinger. That's what it is. To me, she's always been that Silver Surfer story, right? I've said it 100 times on the stream, where she's bringing about or preparing Azerite for what is to come, and that thing is going to be Demacius. Just like the ethereals I've talked about before. We've heard them talking about it. What was his name? Locust Walker even seems familiar with Xal'atath, because it seems like she came before Demacius to their planet as well. So she's certainly not an old god. She is just someone who brings about the Void
It
Lords.
could still be Xal'atath, it doesn't have to be an old god, but seeing that we already saw 4 old gods and 1 experiment that created something similar, it's pretty safe to say that this figure definitely appears as an old god. Now this leads us to a really interesting side quest we had just gotten from the War Within beta that is much like this entire mural. Interesting on first glance, but even more interesting when you really dig into it and really examine all the details. So it starts off as something seemingly so irrelevant, like some tiny fishing side quest to loot a cobis, which is this new creature from Kazakar that looks like a cave murloc or like a mix between a murloc and a Jinyu. So once you loot them, you find this little fish called the gasping fish whose dehydrated lips seem to move, wanting to whisper something. Now, as I said, you would think this is some little fishing side quest, but...
Yeah, that's fishy, to say the least. There's definitely some old god shit going on here. Any fish that wants to talk is old god influenced, and it's because the old gods live in the deep, especially in Azerite and those, so they've been imprisoned down there. And who would be closest? Well, it'd be fish, of course.
Now, as I said, you would think this is some little fishing side quest.
How's it going, man?
It seems like one of the biggest foreshadowings so far from the beta. Now, if you're familiar with old god lore, and specifically Azerite, you wouldn't take this fish symbolism lightly. You might remember it was his fish form that essentially created the Naga and Queen Ashara. So the fish starts whispering inside your head, which obviously means this is not just a regular fish, and it begs you to take it to the water. After this, it gives you a quest to collect sunless shards from the cobis, these little dark crystals that reflect no light, and also to gather insight on them from their shrines. Now, as we start approaching these shrines, we get really interesting dialogues from the so-called Abyss Whisperer, which are essentially brand new old god whispers. First, it says, they are gone, but their blood remains. The blood remembers. I previously talked about this in regards to the 5th old god and how he might be alive. It is really no secret, it's no speculation that Xal'atath is collecting old god blood in Kazakar. This was literally confirmed by Blizzard.
That's been her mission all along. That's why she's recruited the Nerubians. It's exactly what they're doing down there. And old god blood has value in some way, shape, or form. Blood in general in WoW seems to have value. I mean, what is Azerite? It's like the blood of Azeroth. That's what we talked about before. So all of this stuff certainly is related to whatever she's doing to prepare the coming of the Void Lords. And who knows, maybe the blood can be used to create a portal or something to bring him about. But remember, the old gods themselves have kind of abandoned their purpose. Once they came here, they got so enveloped in just being gods of this world that they kind of abandoned their post in terms of bringing about a Void Lord. And it seems like Xal'atath's return is kind of to bring that about once again. Like, hey, you guys forgot what you were supposed to do here. I'm going to get it done. And so combining their blood into something to do that, it seems to be her mission.
In dialogue, it was also confirmed that this old god blood is, in a way, alive. It isn't just blood, it's very potent and powerful. According to some of the interviews, we know the old gods are defeated, but they also said old gods can't exactly be killed as void creatures. They don't really work like we do. So what the quote says is they're gone, but the blood remains and remembers. The best guess is that the old gods are alive through this blood. Also, a super quick throwback to some of the things we saw from the past. You definitely heard about Selenite from Wrath of the Lich King, which is literally the blood of Yogg-Saron in Northrend. It was incredibly potent, it corrupted minds, it was all over Northrend, even though Yogg-Saron was not exactly tied directly to it. Furthermore, remember Pandaria? I mean, Y'Shaaraj's blood spilled all over Pandaria when Amatul pulled him out, which created this entire shock corruption. And then we had the Heart, which Garrosh threw and essentially just destroyed the entire zone. So old god blood is not just blood. It's definitely not simple blood that just fuels the body. It's potent on its own. It is alive in a way. It's like a magic of its own.
Moishi, did you change your name? You little bitch, you're coming in my chat. Definitely not Moishi now. That's freaking hilarious. I'm not going to lie. And yes, I understand the internet's taken a pure, massive shit this morning. I subscribe to the highest tier of Xfinity. Thank you very much, Konisi. Okay, I'm a massive subber to freaking Xfinity. I give them my life savings basically, and they're treating me like shit. Yeah, I'm gonna give them a call after this.
An even more interesting thing right now that we can also consider is whether Azerite really even is Azerite or whether there was the blood of Cthulhu, as remember, it started leaking from the sword of Sargeras, which is exactly where Cthulhu was rooted in. Magni told us this is the blood of Azeroth, which is why we know Azerite is the blood of Azeroth, but remember, the King of Diamonds has been made a pawn. Also, it's almost certain right now that Magni did something really dumb as he got us to drain the artifacts, one of the artifacts being Xal'atath, into the wound. He was also the speaker for Azeroth, but now that Azeroth is actually awakening and giving these visions, he apparently lost his form and no longer hears anything, making it very likely he was duped by Xal'atath this entire time. However, the point remains, Old God blood is insanely powerful. Now, we get two other codes from this Abyss Whisper. Swim in these dark waters and be changed by them. No light shines in these depths. And dark blood rains from the false sky. It tastes of war past and wars to come. So just to give a quick little context here, the blood thing is supposedly right around where the new race Heronir are, which is the lowest most layer of Khazakar, and there is a very...
one thing about this new race that I want to say, they got cinematic time, man. These guys are going to be important. I do think that, I do subscribe to that whole thing that these guys are probably the missing link between Night Elves and Trolls, because they do seem like they are half Night Elf, half Troll. Like if you look at their visual aesthetics, that's what they look like. But the fact that they got some cinematic time, to me, says that these guys are going to be very important and potentially playable at some point. Really. Because who the hell gets cinematic? Now, we've seen the Tuskarna cinematic, and those guys have yet to be made playable too. Well, I don't know if they ever will be at this point. I thought they were going to be for sure in Dragonflight. But the importance of these guys, I think, can't be understated. The fact that they showed up in cinematic, we're going to be interacting with them a lot.
Which is the lowest most layer of Khazakar, and there is a very popular speculation that there is yet another layer, a new zone that we will soon discover. We think this is the case because Blizzard said they won't give us the full map of Khazakar until after release because it would spoil everything. Also, almost certainly this entire zone is what remains of the World Tree Eluna here that was planted upon Old God corruption. In the lowest most layer, there are giant roots, and you would imagine this blood would be right a little bit under the roots. No light shines in these depths, kind of confirms how this is pure void, and also the false sky they're talking about is the crystal in Hellfall. The light crystal functions as a sky in the sun, even though this is all in the dark and far under the ground. The dark blood raining from the false sky probably says about the crystal changing into the void, which happens as we quest through the zone. As they say, it tastes of war past and wars to come. However, this quest gets even more...
What does it say? It tastes of war past and war to come? It tastes of wars past and wars to come. Oh, what could that even... I don't know. Void and light? Wars past? Could it be talking about that crystal that was found back in even Season of Discovery by Xal'atath, where she's sitting there next to it? Was that part of something? Who knows?
War past and wars to come. However, this quest gets even more interesting. So once we return to the fish, he uses these crystals to create a lure in order to ambush the Cobis, and this lure just starts doing void damage, obviously. Then the fish asks us to take it further out to the sea as the exposure to the light had weakened it, so it needs to get to the darker waters. As we let it go, it shifts from fish into another illusion, into an octopus-like creature, and as we get further away, an abyssal Leviathan arrives to claim it. They both swim away, and we get another whisper, another warning. Our cooperation is at an end. Now I return to the sea beneath the sea, away from this accursed star. Bring its lights to our depths, and we shall be your crushing end. Let us not meet again. The thought of your drowned corpse displeases me. So, just to give a little bit of context here, the sea...
That's interesting. The thought of your drowned corpse displeases me. That sounds like they kind of developed feelings for us. They don't want us to die. I don't know. And what is this? Now return to the sea beneath the sea. The sea beneath the sea? That's an interesting one too. Maybe it's the void beneath the sea. Away from this accursed star. I guess they're talking about the sun. It doesn't like the light. Bring its light to our depths, and we shall be your crushing end. Maybe they're talking about the Hellfall crystal again. And about when it's, when it finally does convert to the void or whatever, that'll be the end of us.
This pleases me. So, just to give a little bit of context here, the sea beneath the sea is referring to Hellafall, as there is actually a giant sea in the zone, but Hellafall is underground itself, beneath the actual ocean of Azeroth. However, I think there is more to this sea than we think, and it's definitely either infested with Old God blood, or there is a passage somewhere at the sea floor leading into the dark water where no light shines. Now, all this is without a doubt Old God related. First of all,
I mean, look, here's the whole thing. It's very much a vertical expansion, right? That's what, you know, the War Within is all about, going deeper into the planet. I could imagine an even deeper zone being discovered at some point, right? Something that, you know, for a patch, big patch cycle or something, where we go even deeper beneath the Nerubian city, which is currently Ashkahet or whatever, which is the lowest layer of the current expansion. I think we could go one layer lower and then see some interesting stuff about the void down there.
Fish, but these octopus creatures and Leviathans are almost always connected to Old God minions. They're obviously referencing this blood, meaning it is going to be a huge story point in the War Within, but where is it really coming from? Why is there Old God blood under Kazakh? So, we got a few interesting scenarios we can consider. We know for certain that the Void goal is to awaken Azeroth, and we were told that before the Titans intervened, the Black Empire almost succeeded.
Cadence, I've never been right about anything in my life. What are you talking about? I predicted the damn expansion release like a freaking 2 months ago. Get your shit out of here.
And turned Azeroth. Could it be possible that
I'm the
this
teller
was
of a
some
thousand
sort
truths.
of the epicenter, like some sort of a gathering ground where the old gods making sacrifices and pooling their own blood one by one inside the zone in order to complete the mission? Some people have stated that the fifth old god might not be a new god, but all the old gods combined, which is why he looks like N'Zoth and Y'Shaarj combined. So even though we defeated them, they're still alive through their blood, and now they can...
You gotta remember, I do think the core of the old gods, the purpose of them, they were sent out by these void lords, right, into the abyss, right? They just send them out all over the place, and if they happen to attach to a planet, great. Then they're supposed to fulfill their purpose of basically preparing the planet, corrupting the planet, and getting it ready for the void lord to eventually come and devour the entire thing. Now, when a planet is devoured, I would think of these old gods probably die. Their purpose has been fulfilled, right? They probably die. And supposedly the old gods that we have on our planet became a bit, so to say, infatuated with their own ruling of the planet, right? They kind of fell in love with just being gods, right? That happened. And so they seem to drift away from their purpose, which was to bring about the Void Lords eventually. Now Xal'atath shows up and she's like, hey, you guys forgot what you were supposed to be doing around here? I'm going to get it done now. The Harbinger, right? She's going to bring about the Void Lords. So it could be very much so that these guys were supposed to maybe combine, die in a way, and combine into something bigger. But it seems like each of them kind of became so infatuated with their own, you know, glory that they didn't fulfill that prophecy. And N'Zoth, the ultimate planner, I'm sure is planning a way out of this. He's always scheming. That's why he's my favorite of the old gods. We'll have to see if he finds a way out of this.
Combined, so even though we defeated them, they're still alive through their blood, and now they can all arise into one giant mega old god. It is possible that they were supposed to pool their blood and create one monstrosity that would complete the awakening. However, there is definitely a little bit of a far-fetched theory. At the same time, this is very likely the fifth old god. I don't really want to repeat myself. You can check out my previous videos for all the details, and we got a lot of documents, but there is evidence supporting the fifth old god existing. A document in Dragonflight said that the Titans lied when they said they cleansed the old god corruption. They imprisoned them, but they hid something beyond the waves. It is possible that they couldn't get to this fifth old god.
Maybe beyond the waves also refers to the sea below the sea that we just read about in that new old god whisper.
He's so far deep
they
down.
Could be the
First,
same
they
thing.
tried planting the World Tree Luna here to try to cleanse it, but then ripped it out and attempted to seal the zone, which is why we never really heard of this island before. Also, it could be yet another old god prison, as well as just a different one. Remember, there is a Titan facility that was referenced on multiple occasions called Ul'dah's, and we had never seen this place until now. It could be the prison of this fifth old god. The blood it is spilling could be similar to Serenite. Yogg-Saron was in prison the whole time, but his blood was all over Northrend, and he had quite a bit of influence over the entire zone. Now, yet another possibility is that this old god was defeated. There was old Xal'atath Legion lore that referenced that the old gods battled between themselves.
It could have been that this old god wanted to remain loyal to their purpose, right? It could have been that this last old god was like, hey, it's time, we got to prepare this place, and the others abandoned that post and said, nope, we're just going to kill you and kind of stay gods around here. Hey, that could be
the
it,
Black
totally.
Empire and
That makes
possibly
sense, actually.
defeated one of their own. It is possible that the fifth old god was defeated in the ancient past in this place, but he remains alive through the blood that is pooled in the zone. Regardless, something big is definitely going to be happening soon. We got a mural, we got these mysterious fish, we're already getting mysterious old god whispers. There is apparently another zone under Xal'atath that might soon be revealed, and a surprising amount of old god blood is here as well. Xal'atath is gathering this blood, using it to start midnight, so at the moment we got about 10 different hints that are certainly going to manifest as soon as 11.1 or 11.2, and we really might be in for a brand new old god. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on Chronicle Volume 4 and the new information by clicking on the screen, and also an ancient training on my second channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Yeah, nice video. Like I said, I think this does have something to do with the old gods abandoning their post, as I mentioned before. These new whispers are interesting. Sea beneath the sea, and your drowned corpse displeases me. And some weird stuff that we have no real meaning behind yet, but I'm sure we will. I always like these old god whispers and the foreshadowing of things to come that they bring about. Very cool video.